Hello, Diocese of the Rio Grande. This is your update for the week of Proper 7, 2020. Today, I want to give you a little reminder about the difference between Phase 1 and Phase 2 in our congregational response to COVID-19. I want to talk to you about the situation unfolding in Navajoland and how you can help. And we're going to talk about the unfortunate rise in coronavirus cases in both Texas and in New Mexico, and what that means for your congregation. You have probably heard about Phase 1 and Phase 2, the Phase 1 workbook, the Phase 2 workbook, and the collaboration between myself, Canon Lee Curtis, and every congregation in the Diocese of the Rio Grande. I just want to make sure that everybody understands what I'm thinking about and talking about when I talk about a distinction between a Phase 1 conversation and a Phase 2 concern. Phase 1, as far as I think about it, Phase 1 is when everybody's under stay at home. Phase 1 is the safe way to do liturgy by not having any contact with anybody. We don't gather in our church buildings. We don't receive communion publicly. Phase 1 is difficult because we are isolated, but it has also led to a tremendous explosion of creative ministry in our diocese. We are reaching communities far beyond where we used to reach by using video and YouTube and Facebook and Zoom. So Phase 1 is the safe way of doing church in the midst of a global pandemic because we are not actually in the same space, breathing the same air. Phase 2 is that next step towards gathering in person in the building, gathering outdoor in the parking lot or the courtyard, or doing deliveries of the sacrament. In each of those situations, we have increased the risk. Things are not completely safe, but we can manage that risk by reducing the number of people we're in contact with and by reducing what's called the contact intensity, how close and how long our contact with each other is. So Phase 1 is really about what we do when we're staying at home. Phase 2 is about taking that next step towards public life and what that might look like. Your Bishops' Committee and Vestry are working with me and Canon Curtis in order to make sure that we are doing everything we can to manage the risks and to keep our people safe. Why are we doing that? Because life is important, because love matters, and we love our neighbors, and we don't want to put anyone at risk. We also want to make sure that you understand that the church never closed. Our buildings closed, but the church remains active, proclaiming the gospel, feeding the hungry, teaching the good news, preaching the faith. The church is still open and ministering to everybody, whether in Phase 1 or in Phase 2. This week, on our call with the presiding bishop, the bishops of the Episcopal Church heard a direct appeal from the Diocese of Navajoland and our dear friend, the Reverend Canon Cornelia Eaton. I want you to understand about Navajoland and what they're going through, and I want you to understand how you can help. Here's a map of Navajoland, and on this map you can see that the Navajo Nation goes through 3 states, New Mexico, Arizona, and Utah. The Navajo Nation contains some of the most beautiful land on God's earth. And it is also rural and remote. Many of the roads in the Navajo Nation are not paved, and many of the people live miles and miles and miles away from the nearest store. So when you're sheltering at home in a rural place, the options are very different. 30% of the Navajo Nation does not have running water to this day. 30% of the Navajo Nation does not have electricity to this day. And so doing the kind of things, keeping your household clean, washing your hands repeatedly, is a very different thing if all you got to do is turn on the sink versus you had to go draw water from the well and bring it in each day. In that part of the Navajo Nation that is in New Mexico, there was a lot of uranium mining. And the uranium mines have closed, the government and the companies have pulled out, but that mining activity has created problems for the groundwater. And so often it is the case, if you are particularly on what is called the checkerboard part of the Navajo Nation in New Mexico, You need to not only go and draw the water, but you have to boil the water in order to sterilize it, because the water itself, even the water you draw from the well and bring into your house, even that water is not safe. And so providing food, providing cleaning supplies, providing water is critical. The Diocese of Navajoland has churches in the far and remote parts of the Navajo Nation, and they are bringing food and cleaning supplies not just to the Episcopalians, but to all of the neighbors in Navajoland. You can help support that ministry by giving directly. We have received a lot of requests, people saying, can I send clothes? Can I send food directly? Here's the thing. What is most helpful right now is if you can make monetary donations directly to the Diocese of Navajoland. They are taking those monetary donations, partnering with us and our food provider account to do bulk deliveries of exactly the food and cleaning supplies that the people in the Navajo Nation need right now. It's the middle of summer and it's hot right now, but we're already beginning to realize that we are going to be in this situation for the long haul. And for the Navajo Nation, that means winter is coming. And we're also going to need help with firewood and maybe even coal to help heat the homes in remote places in the Navajo Nation. So our efforts to help provide food, to help provide cleaning supplies, to help provide heat will be going on for the months to come. You can donate directly using the link below. We've also received a lot of questions about how people can send clothing or food directly to the shelters in Juarez that Padre Hector is running and that we are partnering with him on. Here's the reality with that. Crossing the border with goods is not something that's possible right now. And so the best way to support the shelters in Juarez and to do that ministry on the borderland with the asylum seekers and those who are waiting for their cases to be heard is to send money directly through the Episcopal Diocese of the Rio Grande's Donate to Asylum Ministry link. That link is right below. Concerns were expressed by epidemiologists weeks ago that if a state or a neighborhood or a town or a church were to open up too fast, that might contribute to an acceleration of coronavirus cases. Unfortunately, we're seeing that begin to happen in the state of Texas, and the state of New Mexico is being impacted as well. Over the last 3 days, the city of El Paso has had triple-digit caseload increases each day. In New Mexico, Doña Ana County, which of course is the one closest to El Paso, is also now in the top 3 counties in New Mexico in terms of caseload. So as your congregation navigates this coronavirus landscape, remember what we said way back in the beginning. The better we are at getting good at phase 1, the better we will be able to weather this thing. Because what may end up happening is we step into phase 2 for a time, cases spike in our area, we step back into phase 1, we stay at home more often, we don't go to church in the same way, we do church the way we do it by not going into the building, and then maybe as the caseload comes back down, we step back into phase 2. So phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 is not necessarily an ABC linear progression. Unfortunately, it may be that what we're about to see is we were working on flattening the curve, we flattened the curve a little bit, we opened things up, caseloads rose, and now we need to step back, shut things down again, stay at home more often in order to keep people safe. So each bishop's committee and each vestry are going to be responsible to monitor your own local context, your own local health information, and then stay in collaboration with me and Canon Lee Curtis as we partner with you about making these difficult judgment calls. And whatever we do, let us remember the church is supposed to be a sanctuary, a safe place, not a place where you're likely to get the virus. So let's keep working on phase 1, let's keep working on phase 2, but most of all, let's keep working for the glory of God together. That's your weekly update. God bless you.